we check in with Jim Pillen at the governor's Ag and Innovation Summit, including his message to Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack about ranchers losing cattle here in Nebraska due to the recent heat wave. Plus, we'll hear from Steve as he continues along his path of trying to raise his own plot of corn. And with the state fair less than 2 weeks away, a look at an advertising push to get people to Grand Island that is no bull. It's time to grow. From entrepreneurship to the state's bioeconomy to transportation infrastructure, those were just a few of the topics discussed at the annual Ag and Economic Development Summit this past week. NTV's Taylor Leverett reports.
Ag and economic development go hand in hand. Another piece to that equation is sustainability.
The vision of Nebraska agriculture, and we're the most sustainable.
At the annual Ag and Economic Development Summit, the governor unveiled his 2 years in the making sustainability project. He says it's all about having the lowest carbon footprint with the goal of keeping Nebraska corn in Nebraska.
Yeah, the vision is we grow Nebraska, grow our industries so that we do not export a kernel of corn or soybeans. Every bushel of corn and soybeans we export away, we give topsoil away, and we've got to stop it. We've got to keep it all here and create the value for our families here.
Along with the governor's efforts are those of the Department of Transportation. Director Vicki Kramer gave an update on the state's progress with the long-delayed 600-mile expressway project.
Highway 81 is left, segments of 77 and segments of 75.
Kramer said, like many job sectors, the Department of Transportation is also facing workforce challenges in terms of staff, but are on the mend.
Working closely with the Department of Labor to really understand what the impacts to workforce look like, while also working with ACDC and AGC within the state to understand what our opportunities are.
As the opportunity for harvest nears for producers, Governor Pillen says continued sustainability should be a priority for farmers. And
remember, we have to defend our process. We have to engage with the public more.
Governor Pillen says he's seeking assistance from USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, asking for funds from the Livestock Indemnity Program. Governor Pillen says he's seeking assistance from USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, asking for funds from the Livestock Indemnity Program. It would provide benefits to some livestock producers in Nebraska after the deaths of a large number of cattle brought on by July's heat wave, with excessive heat up to 110 degrees in parts of the state. Pillen says between the heat and the humidity and no wind, it was too much for the cattle. He is asking for the same adjustment that was given to cattle owners in North Dakota after the 2022 blizzard.
System right now as it is, it would only fund like $1,250. These critters were worth $3,000, and 75% of that's $2,200. So that's the expectation. We're gonna be pretty ornery until we get that answer.
The governor says they don't know the exact number of cattle that were lost during the excessive heat, but they are close to finding out soon.
But let's just say that we know of areas where the air movement, the number of really heavy animals that some lost up to 15% of their herd that day, which is stifling.
The governor went on to say that he wanted to make sure Secretary Vilsack knew that nothing had to be changed, saying that the USDA has the authority to make an exception with the LIP funding. Steve's off this week, but he's not totally off. He recently caught up with Dr. Julie Peterson about how some insects are adapting to tools farmers use to keep those pests away from their crops.
When BT corn first became available, it was really a game changer because it allowed us to have much better control. Because it was so good, everybody used it.
Yes, so we certainly have this issue with resistance for insects, for weeds, for diseases. We have these great products that work, and we kind of love them to death. So one of the things that has happened with the Cry 1F or Herculex trait, that product came out, it's been widely planted, and it used to do a pretty good job at suppressing the western bean cutworm, but really around 2013, 2014, 2015, we started to see pretty significant problems. And we have now really confirmed that the Western bean cutworm is resistant to that Cry1F protein. But that leaves us with just the VIP protein. It's currently doing a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting, and we want to try to be really careful with stewardship for that to make sure we have that tool in our toolbox for as long as possible.
Yeah, because if the same thing happens there, if history repeats itself, then where are we? We've got to kind of use all the tools in our toolbox, don't we?
Absolutely. I think that we, if we're going to be smart, we need to realize that the insects are very smart as well, very, very adaptable, that they have been able to overcome pretty much everything we've thrown at them. So I think for me, it's an issue of looking at how do we delay resistance. We're not going to ever completely prevent resistance from happening. But yeah, can we use the tools we have in the best way for the longest longevity for them, but can we also look at what are maybe some new tools in the toolbox? Can we use lady beetles to eat the eggs of the Western bean cutworm? Can we look at other types of management like that to include into our IPM picture?
Yeah, so it's probably as you're integrating all these different solutions together, not just relying on that one genetic trait, you got to think outside the box and maybe think of other management strategies.
Absolutely. I think that is a huge part of integrated pest management. It's knowing what you have out in your field, monitoring for those pests, but then using a combination of management strategies and trying to use things that can really complement and even synergize with each other, in not relying on one single thing over and over, because that will lead to resistance development even faster.
We'll check back again in with Steve in just a bit. But Greeley County residents and the Greeley County Board are currently in a battle deciding on the expansion of a $200 million wind farm being built in their county. NTV's Gary Robinson Jr. has the story.
Greeley County Commissioner meeting was held for a proposed commercial wind farm from NextEra that would see 41 sites between the towns of Greeley and Scotia. This has led to a dividing battle for the past 6 months between the county board and the people of Greeley County. I spoke with Robert Burnt, who is a landowner and Greeley County resident, about the issue.
The issue here is being the safety, the health, and the well-being of the people of the county. We don't feel that the people were properly informed at the very beginning of the onset of the permit to allow us to speak. And since then, it seems to be a continual problem with them trying to silence us.
As the locals in Greeley County believe that their voices aren't being heard, the Greeley County Board believes they are doing what is best for the people. They say the wind farm will reduce the use of fuel, use clean and new energy, and more.
The project will create a combination of temporary and full-time jobs in Greeley County. Proponents testified this would result in economic benefits to many sectors of local economy. The project will result in additional property tax revenue in Greeley County, centralized public school districts, and other taxing jurisdictions. Proponents testify these taxes would greatly benefit Greeley County and its public schools.
Greeley County residents say they understand the economic boost it will give, but they believe that adding a wind farm will take away from the small community they already have.
In other wind farms that we went to, we've asked one question that, yeah, does it bring people here? In the huge farms it did, but in every farm, small ones included, we got one answer: did anyone leave the community because of them? That answer was yes. In all sites, there were people that left because of them. Don't let that happen here.
The money for the wind farm will come from national tax dollars, as this operation will cost $200 million with a $15 million commission fee. The meeting would end in the county board approving the permit to continue with this operation, which the community of Greeley plan to appeal.
Usually, ranchers worry about their cattle getting out, but in Merritt County, a bison is back behind a fence after escaping this past week. The sheriff's office says it was spotted early in the morning at the intersection of Highway 92 and 12th Road northeast of Archer. They say there was a concern of a vehicle could crash into it. Authorities say the bison traveled 2 miles before the local owner could be contacted. Still ahead, we check back in with Steve about his personal corn crop. And coming up, Advertising 101 with a touch of bull and some emojis thrown in to get the attention of folks in Omaha.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Let's check back in with Steve now as he's growing his own corn this year through the university's TAPS contest. He recently visited with ag economist Matt Stockton, and we'll find out what he learned.
Decisions. I think people think, oh, that farmer gets in the tractor and does his thing. And if nothing else, I've got a healthy appreciation that, boy, there's a lot that goes into growing that crop.
Yeah, and a lot of critical time periods. In other words, you have such a date, you got to have insurance decided. If you don't, it'll do what last year you did. If you didn't do any, you don't have it. Is insurance important? It depends. There's a lot of things in the type of insurance and the decisions you make there. I mean, we only have 6 decisions in the irrigated taps. And in reality, a farmer has a whole lot more than that. They have to decide what equipment to buy, when to buy it. They got depreciation expense. They got all that. How much to rent land for? You know, what's all these things that they have to decide and do, and all of them are critical to profitability. And yet, even with the simple 6 decisions, if you want to call it simple, there is just a ton of variability and a ton of different things that could happen, and we have a large variation in profitability because of it.
Yeah. Do you find that through TAPS even that, you know, those are 6 decisions, but then when you break those out into their component pieces, you know, if you were to do the math on that, there are a lot of different routes, you know, you could go. So do you end up with pretty wide variability even in terms of profitability?
Okay. Well, if you just look at water application, I think last year we had as much as 21 inches and as little as 1 or 2 inches of water applied. Okay, and then everything in between. I mean, we're talking total water for the irrigation inches, they measured inches per acre per inches. So, I mean, there's all that. And then there's amount of fertilizer. I mean, there's an infinite number of amount of fertilizer, and not just how much fertilizer, because we only do nitrogen, but when did you put it on? Did you decide to put it on first? Did you put it on in the middle? Did you put it on spoon feeded? Did you put it through the pivot or whatever you did? I mean, there's different ways to do it. So, and they all can affect your decision. And then, of course, you got to pick the variety of corn. Okay, did I pick? Oh no, I'm sorry. For you agronomists out there, not variety, hybrid.
Right.
I got to get.
Well,
that
I had
right.
to pick a hybrid. I had to pick a population.
Yes.
You know, and then I'm realizing, I'm not also having to be the mechanic and be the operator and all those things. That's all done for me.
Yeah. So just think about what, you know. So when a farmer gets up in the morning, now he's thinking about, what do I got to get done today to get to survive? I mean, and of course, spraying weeds on time. Right. Timing is everything, and of course we're doing that, and there's times that we have a struggle with that. I mean, things don't go perfect. Weather, it's raining today, I was going to do so-and-so. Well, sorry, not today. Got to do that some other. So this is, you know, the biological portion of farming. It really makes it exciting.
Makes you wonder why a guy does this.
Well, I think he does it because he wants to feed people and wants to make a living. That's what he does. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't recognize too. I mean, let's just talk about different types of hybrids. You know, people think, well, it's monoculture. Well, it's not really monoculture because there's so many different characteristics of those hybrids, and they have such disease resistance of different kinds. I mean, you're not talking about monoculture here. Right. Whereas, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what's really going on in agriculture.
Kyle's in with our Grow Weather Outlook coming up next.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
The drought monitor released earlier this week still indicating very dry conditions across the central plains. Let's take a closer look now at the state of Kansas, where it looks fairly similar to what we had last week, but some slight improvements were made. No drought category, 13.5%. Abnormally dry, 86.5% there. Moderate drought, 70%. Roughly a 1.5% increase, likewise the first two as well. Severe drought, roughly 45%. This is our best improvement from the last week, about a 2.5% increase from last week. Otherwise, extreme drought still at 30%, roughly the same. And exceptional drought, 3.19%, which is roughly a 0.5% increase. Still very dry there. Just east of Wichita. Of course, west central Kansas there as well. Moving on now to Nebraska, no drought, now in 27%. Roughly a 4.5% increase on this one, as well as the abnormally dry category, 73% there now. Moderate drought, 53.25%. This is our best improvement from the last week, an 11% improvement. That means it was at 64% last week, now at 53.25% this week. Severe drought, 29.5%. about a 2.5% increase there. 14.5% still an extreme drought. An exceptional drought was cut in half from last week, which is certainly an encouraging sign. Now at 1.31%, with 2.63% last week. So still very dry there across, say, parts of east central Nebraska, just east of Grand Island. Otherwise, temperatures for the month of August, this really hasn't changed much from last week. Still looking at below average temperatures for the western part of Nebraska, parts of the Panhandle as well. Above average temperatures still expected for the rest of the month here in parts of, say, central and southern Kansas. Looking ahead to precipitation, still looks the same. Above average precipitation really expected for all of our area. The best increase in precipitation potentially looking at far parts of the western Nebraska Panhandle. So precipitation still an encouraging sign there. The next 3 months, temperatures, well, a little bit below average still in the eastern part of Nebraska, the extreme northeast part of Kansas as well. Otherwise, above average temperatures expected for the western part and southwestern parts of Kansas. For the next 3 months, temperature-wise and precipitation, equal chances for a good portion of us as well, although above average precipitation totals potentially expected here for parts of eastern Nebraska as well as eastern Kansas. So these still looking very similar and very encouraging for these next couple of months here. The grow week ahead, be starting the week off a little bit on the cooler side. Temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s, but we'll be warming up towards the middle part of the week, topping out probably near 90 by the middle part of the week. Storm chance, though, by Wednesday afternoon and into the evening hours potentially. Cool down on Thursday as well. Otherwise, temperatures right back up to where they should be this time of year on Friday. Low temperatures, well, pretty comfortable for this time of year as well. Grow almanac for the week. Normal highs roughly around 86. 64 is your normal low. 85 for the week ahead. And week ahead average low is a little bit cooler than what we're used to seeing this time of year, 58, but we'll certainly take it. Nice to see those temperatures bouncing around that average mark. And your Grove proverb for the week, the Perseid meteor shower, of course, that's happening tonight and really the next week as well. I'll give you a little proverb on meteors here. If there may be many falling stars during a clear evening in summer, expect thunder. Well, we do have a storm chance towards the middle part of the week. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That is a look at this week's Grow Weather Report. Be sure to stay tuned next week when it will once again be time to grow.
Want to see more photos from your county fair? Go to our website, nebraska.tv, and chime in.
Up next, the story behind the State Fair billboard that has the internet talking. Don't go away.
Ag Innovations is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
The Nebraska State Fair coming to Grand Island all those years ago, that was a big move. For some, it was a move too far. But a new billboard in Omaha says that's a bunch of manure.
As a longtime Grand Island native, Jack Sheard with Idea Bank Marketing in Hastings says he always hears about people talking about the drive from Omaha to Grand Island for the Nebraska State Fair.
Always hear something about that long drive to Grand Island. But never ever about the short trip home from Grand Island.
And this is Idea Bank's reaction, shown on a billboard ad for the Nebraska State Fair launched last week at 45th and Dodge in Omaha.
There are some great events at the State Fair, exciting events like bull riding and bull fighting, for example. And we thought maybe we could throw a little bull into the marketing, and this just seemed to fit. It's fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's something that we hope gives attention that the State Fair is here, that they have a little bit of fun, a little bit of personality, and it's okay to have fun.
While there may have been concerns about stepping into controversy when launching the billboard ad campaign, Sheard said that people have responded positively so far, both locally and in Omaha.
They're not offended, and some people have actually said, we should get out to the fair. Locally, a lot of support. A lot of people appreciate being defended the Tri-Cities, Central Nebraska. They like it when somebody steps up and reminds people that we're out here and we're not far out here.
Sheard says Idea Bank plans to keep things moving and add a second billboard in Lincoln later this month.
The Nebraska State Fair runs from August 25th through September 4th. Tickets to the fair are on sale right now. Well, that does it for this week's edition of NTV's Grow. Steve will be back next week. Have a great one, everybody.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.